A full face of e.l.f.? Let's go. Hello and welcome to today's video. We're doing a full face using only e.l.f. products. It's a one brand video. I've got so much products from this brand. I think this is the brand from the drugstore that I have the most of. I have ordered some new things to kind of sprinkle into my collection for these types of videos. A lot of it's already existing in my collection. And I do have a lot of things that I enjoy from this brand. So I'm going to talk you through a look today and kind of give you my thoughts along the way, show you the products, the formulas, let you see how they perform and how all of e.l.f. products work together and if the end result is something that I'm going to be happy with. Before we jump in, I want to just put out there that I've already done a review on the Soft Glam foundation that recently came out from e.l.f. It was a launch that nobody really saw coming out of nowhere, so I ordered it, got it in the mail, did a review on it. I also talked about the Brow Lamination Gel, their new reformulated or repackaged Plumping Glosses. I also have done a review on their new Jelly Pop Vault collection. They brought back the Jelly Pop Primer and the other additional products in that collection. So that's been done in separate videos. I will link those helpful videos in addition to this one for you to watch if you haven't seen it. If you have, thanks for watching those videos. I do enjoy doing these types of drugstore videos for you. So without further ado, let's just dive right on in. When it comes to primer, e.l.f. has so many options to choose from. As I talked about earlier in the video, the Jelly Pop has been brought back, which is an old favorite of mine. Smells like watermelon, has a slight tacky feel to it. We all know about these Power Grip ones. The one with niacinamide is a favorite of mine. The original that looks green comes out kind of like a jelly consistency. That's the stickiest of them all. They have the liquid putty and also the classic sort of putty texture. These are little minis that come with like gift with purchases, but they do give you options to choose. And every time they have these little jars, I always pick them up when I place an order online. But these are the putty primers, and then this one has the vitamin C added to the putty primer. The liquid one is good too. Then they also have the Halo Glow filters. You can use this as a primer or as a mix-in to your foundation, your skincare, serums or whatnot. Every brand nowadays has something like this. It's modeled after the infamous Hollywood Flawless Filter from Charlotte Tilbury, which that is one of my all-time favorite products from that line. So it's kind of nice to see products that are supposed to be similar but at a much more affordable price, because the one from Charlotte Tilbury is quite expensive. This one is really pretty. I have a couple of shades of this. So you can do so much with this. So as far as primers, I feel like they've got you covered. So I think today I'm going to go in with a little bit of the putty primer. I like to use the back end of one of my brushes, and I take about a grain of rice size amount, maybe just a little bit larger. You don't need a lot of this, and I'm going to focus this mostly on the areas that I have larger pores. So right in through this region here. And the warmth of your finger is really the best way to kind of melt this into the skin. I have used this with a brush before, but I think I get the best result using my hands. So I'm just going to blend this right on in. And then I think I want to take some of this Jelly Pop primer around the parameters of my face where my skin tends to be the driest. And I'm only going to use just a little bit because I do have that putty primer pretty much in the center region of my face. So I don't need a lot of this, but this does have a little bit of a sticky feel. Ever since I got this with the Jelly Pop Vault collection, I've been using it a lot because this was one of my favorite products that I have loved from e.l.f. And it's just good to see that it's brought back. I don't know if it's permanently brought back. I hope so. Let's talk foundations. So they don't have a ton of foundation options as far as like liquid versions. They do have the Satin Foundation, which has a frosted glass bottle, and I was not a fan of that when I tried that years ago. I'm not sure if they're discontinuing it and using the Soft Glam as a replacement for that, or if they're going to continue keeping both. This is a new one. I've already reviewed this. I talked about the shades, swatches. I did a 10.5-hour wear check on this as well. And the other product is the infamous Camo CC. This is supposed to be their version of the It Cosmetics one. This I reordered in the shade Fair 140W. When I first bought this, when it first launched, I would say 3.5 years ago, I got a shade that was a little too light. I think it was like 120 Fair. So I decided to revisit this and try it again. I remember not really caring for it too much, but I needed a foundation product. I didn't know that this was going to come out when I ordered this. I think it was like a month ago actually. So I thought I would just try this one since it says full coverage. Maybe sort of mixing it with a little bit of this. I'm not really sure. Also, this CC Cream comes in a hydrating version as well that was very recently added to their line of foundation products. If you like to keep things simple and use a powder foundation, they also have the Camo Powder Foundation. This is the shade 120 Fair N. I've had this for, I would say, at least a year or longer, and I haven't even used it. And I think it's just because the shade is too light. That's the thing that I'm going to say about e.l.f. I feel like they should do better with their shade descriptions and swatches and photos, because if I would have seen this product like this online, I would have ordered something darker because this is very light. So here's a look at those two products swatched. So the top one is the CC Cream in Fair 140W, and the bottom swatch is the Soft Glam in 15W Warm. I also want to try this out again with you on camera. This is the bronzing drops. These are also a new product. I've done a video already on this. I picked up the shade Rose Gold, and I actually did enjoy how this looked and how it mixed into my foundation. So I'm going to add a drop to my mixture here, and I'm going to apply it with a damp beauty sponge. So by adding those bronzing drops to this mixture, it's going to bring this mixture to a more actual match for me, because the warm tones, they're quite yellow. And when I tried the CC Camo the first time when it first launched, I ordered a lighter shade. I think it was 120 Fair Neutral, and that was too light. So this is the next shade up. And like I said, I don't really look at light shades, so I didn't even consider buying that for this video. And maybe I should have, because I think that the CC Cream does run a little light. Next up is concealer. I'm going to start with one of my favorites from e.l.f. and it's the Putty Corrector for the under eyes. This is in the shade Fair, and what I do is I just take the end of a brush and kind of scoop some out. I do like how this brightens and actually does something. So it's not an extra step for no reason. It actually does brighten the eyes, and it helps conceal the darkness. So I'm going to start with some of this. And then I'm going to go in with the Hydrating Satin Finish Camo Concealer. I have the shade called Fair Beige, and I'm not the biggest fan, if I'm being honest, with this formula. It could be the color, it could be the Hydrating Satin Finish. I have to revisit the original Camo, so they've got two versions of this concealer, but we're going to use this over the brightener today. And I'm going to use my same beauty sponge to blend this in. You can use your finger, you can use a brush, but I do like how this just instantly made such a difference, because I did have some visible darkness under my eyes. So I think it's a really good corrector from the drugstore. Next up, I'm going to use a little bit of that Satin Finish Camo Concealer. I'm going to do tiny little dots to set the under eyes and do a little bit of baking to ensure that this is going to wear well for me today. I'm going to use their loose HD powder, and I want to give a shout out to this brand for giving you a lid basically for your products. So you twist this little cap here, and it opens up the little holes where you can dump the product out onto a makeup palette right into the lid, which I think is what most people would do. And then you can close it so that you don't lose any product and it doesn't make a mess, because loose powders, they're so messy. When this is not part of the packaging, when you open your lid, it's like a big old cloud of dust, and it gets everywhere, and it's happened to me so many times. So I do want to call that out, because I think this is oh my gosh, my light was just kind of tipping over and it scared me. I do think that this is a great bonus that they're giving you, and I think that they deserve some praise for doing this. So if the other high-end brands and other drugstore brands could get on board with this type of packaging, that would be great. Please and thank you. And I'm using a powder puff from Sonia Kashuk that I picked up at Target. And I'm going to press this in as I do with most of my setting powders. I have not used this powder, so I don't know if this is going to be a good one for the under eye, but I wanted to get a setting powder to do some baking. So I'm going to try not to scare you. I'm going to take some of that same powder and just kind of push that right over my face just to set the foundation, because the Soft Glam does get quite dewy on me as the day progresses, so I kind of want to ensure that that's going to stay in place. The chin, press it around the cheek area. So as my bake sits, I'm going to scare you for a little bit, and we're going to move on to brows. I'm going to use their Instant Lift waterproof pencil in the shade Neutral Brown, I believe is what I purchased. Yes, Neutral Brown. And I also picked up the Wow Brow in Neutral Brown. I've used this before many years ago, but I had a darker shade, and I think it was like a deep brown or maybe even brunette. So this time I chose the Neutral Brown to see how I feel about that. But I do like how this has a very, very tiny, like little spoolie, And it also has little fibers to help give your brow a little bit of volume. And that works perfectly for someone like myself that has a little bit more sparseness, a little bit of gaps, and areas that doesn't have an actual hair growth. Let's start with the waterproof pencil. Do you see how quick that was? What I like about this formula is that it has a bit of a kind of waxy consistency where I feel like it's actually keeping them in place, and I think that's helpful. It's a little bit of a thicker brow pencil, but it has a very subtle kind of hold. So now from here, I'm going to add a little bit of the Wow Brow over the top. And this is just as good as I remember. So this is a very good tinted brow gel. And that is the brow, the before, and the after. I'm really happy with that look, and I like how those two work together, and I'm going to continue using them. If you wanted a brow gel that isn't tinted, they do have their new brow lamination gel. I've already reviewed this, so I'm not going to use this today. I'm going to go ahead and do the other brow, and then we will dust this bake away. Brows are done. Let's go ahead and dust the bake away, and I'm going to use the e.l.f. Complexion Duo. I recently bought another one of these. I have one in my travel makeup bag, and it lives in there, and it stays there for my travel trips, weekend getaways, or vacation days. I've got to have this brush, and I recently bought another one, and I just am so happy to have it back. I think that this is a great brush. It's one side where you could use it for your foundation, bronzer, blush, anything, and then the other side could be for your concealer, setting under the eyes. You can use it for contour. You can use it to dot your little products on if you want. I mean, there's so much that you can do with this, and it's just a couple bucks, and it's so great. The other sort of setting powder that I should have mentioned, I completely forgot. I have this whole basket that's completely overflowing. They have the Halo setting powder, and this is the light pink one, and this one does a good job at setting, but as far as baking with this, it does not. So I wanted to try the HD, which is why I used that today, but this is another one that works for giving you a little bit of brightness. But if you like to bake, I would suggest that you kind of skip this powder for that specific technique, because I don't think it's the best one. But they do have some options, so if you wanted to choose a powder from e.l.f., they've got a couple that you can choose from. Let's talk bronzers. So they have a couple of different products. They have so many things to choose from. You can actually use some of their Halo contour ones in place of a liquid bronzer. The shade that I use for that, if I'm going to use these types of products, it's the light medium. I do have the contour in the fair light, and that's quite cool, so that is a definite contour shade. Or if you like something with a bit of glow, you can use one of these. These are the Halo Glow filters, and for me, in my fair tones, I use the shade 6 Tan Deep for bronzing and adding kind of a bit of a deeper color to my foundation, or as my liquid bronzer for the day. And of course, they have the Putty Bronzers. They have the original ones. They have luminous versions if you like the shimmer, and then their newer sort of primer infused bronzers, which I'm going to use today. Maybe I'll mix it with a little bit of the Putty Bronzer, but I wanted to try and revisit this formula. I've used their primer infused products before. This is the shade Sunkissed, Forever Sunkissed. I'm going to start with the Putty Bronzer. The shade that I have is Tan Lines, and this is one of my favorites from the line. I think this is one of their most popular bronzers. So the shade that I'm using in this Putty Bronzer is Tan Lines, and I think it's the perfect shade for fair skin, and it's really hard to mess these up. That's what I love about these. It's just too easy to use, very user-friendly. You don't have to have a lot of experience. You don't have to have special tools. I'm using a Can't Stop Won't Stop brush from NYX. It's their foundation brush, and it's beautiful. It blends right in seamlessly right over liquids and powders. So this is definitely a must if you're shopping e.l.f. You gotta pick one of these up. And I'm going to go right over the Putty Bronzer, and I'm using a Real Techniques multitask brush, but it's the shorter one. So the handle has been shortened, so it's more like a travel size. I did order another one because I love it so much. I had to have another one. So I love this brush. I'm going to link it for you. Next up is blush, and it's one of my very favorite products to use. I feel like that changes the way the face looks, and I absolutely love it. Can't be without. So let's talk e.l.f. blushes. The newer Camo liquid blushes. I've talked about these. I reviewed them when they first came out. These are actually very pigmented, so you need a tiny bit. These are their version of the Rare Beauty blushes, which are extremely pigmented. They're beautiful, and this formula is no exception. It's gorgeous on the skin, but you have to use very minimal amount. They also have their Putty Blushes. There's two different versions, the original that's more matte and the luminous one. So I'm going to link the ones that I really like, the shades that I like, down below. I do have a few newer ones that I want to try, and they also have powder blushes. So if you don't like creams or that putty texture, they do have pressed powder blushes. This is the Primer Infused Matte Blush in Always Cheeky, which is a really pretty fresh peach shade. It's a classic traditional peach that doesn't lean too warm or too cool, and it doesn't have too much pink into it. So I think it's a really pretty shade. Also feel very drawn and compelled to use my putty blush in the shade Caribbean. This looks bold and intense, but it looks like it could give me that really kind of pretty flush, kind of bitten cheek, that kind of in from the cold vibe. Even though we're in summer, I think there's something really natural and beautiful about that. So I think I'm gonna aim to do this, and let's cross our fingers and hope that I don't wreck my face today, because this looks so bold. I'm gonna use a round tapered brush from Profusion. This is the PD8, so it's a round tapered powder brush, and I'm gonna take a little bit. I feel like this is going to stain my brush, but it's okay. We're gonna just try it. And I did very, very minimal, and I kind of press it into my napkin here so that I don't over apply, because this is pretty intense. It looks beautiful, but it looks like one that I could definitely go overboard, okay? Because I can go crazy with the blush. And just like the Putty Bronzers, these are easy to work with. I don't feel like you have to have any special skill to be able to make these work. They're just easy. They're really just foolproof. Even that bold shade, look at that, beautiful. Let's talk highlighter. That's the last step of my routine to finish my base complexion with e.l.f. products. So you could go in with the halo filters. They have lots of different shades, so it's gonna be different for you than what I would use. If I'm going to highlight, I will use shade 1 Fair. The Halo Glow Wands, they do have some light shades. Champagne is a nice kind of gold. It's a little bit more gold than I prefer, so I don't really reach for this as often, but it's an option if you like these kind of squeezy tube products. You could also just use a luminous putty blush to give yourself some glow and skip the actual highlighting step. They do have these duos where it's a highlighter and blush. They're around, I think, $3 or $4, and it has a blush and a highlighter. I don't own one of those, so you could do that, and it knocks out 2 different steps in one little compact. Or you could use the Jelly Pop Glow Stick that recently was launched, part of the Jelly Pop line, but I have already used this in my last video talking about the new products, just to see how this works over the foundation. This is really pretty and it leaves a nice glow to the skin. It's kind of more of a kind of balmy texture, so if you like that, you'll enjoy this. But if you want something that has a bit more of a dry down but still has that luminosity, I would say go in with one of the halo filters, and you'll get that kind of glow that you're looking for. So with the ColourPop F31 brush, I'm going to go in with the Halo Glow Filter in shade 1 Fair, just to add a very subtle kind of glow. And do you see that? It looks really soft and natural because I only use a tiny bit. It can be built up. So it's a product that not only has multi-purposes and uses, but you can customize the glow and the intensity based off how much you use. I'm gonna go around the temples as well with whatever's left on my brush. Let's move on to eyes. They do have a new primer that I've already talked about. This is the Lock It Down primer. I didn't have the best results with this preventing creasing, so what I'm gonna do is use less product this time, and I'm gonna set this also with some powder. I think I'm just gonna use the HD powder that I used to bake to set this primer. So let's talk eyeshadows from e.l.f. They have a couple things that you can choose from as well. They have some larger eyeshadow palettes that are pretty decent for the price point, and I don't have the larger ones. But what I do have is a few of their bite-sized little quads. These little guys pack such a punch when it comes to pigment blendability. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they can give us this quality and this assortment of shades and these tones for the price point. They're so inexpensive, and if you're looking for something just simple and easy for every day, it's just laid out 4 shades. It's not overwhelming, and it's just easy, regardless if you're a beginner or someone who uses makeup every day and you have experience using multiple shadows to create looks. They have bright, fun ones like this one. This is the Hot Jalapeno, which is the green. I do have the Truffles and also the Pumpkin Pie. I did use some of these shades in a recent video as well. They also have shadow sticks. I have one. This is the matte shadow stick in the shade Cool Beans. I was wanting a kind of cool tone brown to do some smokiness under the lower lashes or for liner, so they can serve different purposes. They do have some shimmer shades, and they do also have their version of liquid eyeshadows. They come in these tiny little components like this. They're small, but that you do have enough product to get a feel for it. So they do have their sort of metallic formula, and they also have some with glitter in it. The writing on these is so small. I will just link the ones that I own that I think are really pretty for kind of more intense eye looks. You can do one and done type of looks, which I love doing on weekends and during the summertime. So I will link the ones that I own down below. I'm going to start mapping out my crease with a bit of the bronzer that I use. So the Primer Infused Bronzer in Forever Sunkissed, a big fluffy crease brush, and I'm going to do a very light layer of this to create the shape around my crease area and start bringing some dimension to my eyes. So these are the mattes together for both of those little mini quads that I have. So the Pumpkin Pie is at the top, Truffles is at the bottom. The Pumpkin Pie one, as you can see, this shade is a little bit on the cooler side. So I think I'm gonna start by adding some of this into my crease, but if you have these, you have some options if you're using both of the palettes, or if you have this one, you've got two mattes. The Truffles has three mattes, three staple matte colors. So a tan, a deep kind of warmer, like dark brown, like an espresso brown. There's a black, and then there's a nice kind of taupey, smoky shade that can be used on the lids, one and done. So much options, and you can do quite a bit with just these four shades. So I'm going to use the cooler brown as I compare those brown shades together with the same crease brush, just because I don't want to have a lot of dirty brushes. I don't like doing brush laundry. I don't like doing laundry, period. So I'm going to just use the same brush for as many steps as I can. I'm also going to run that cooler brown on the lower lashes with a pencil style brush. This is a ColourPop E27. And I'm just going to build this up just a little bit more to make the under eye area look a little bit more smoky and a little bit more intense. Then I'm going to go back into that crease brush. I'm going to pinch it, just again, making it easier for myself in the end when I have to clean up here. And I'm going to blend that out. For the outer V, I'm going to use that same cooler brown with a little bit more of a compact type of brush. This is a Sephora Pro crease brush. I love this brush. It's kind of like a crease brush meets eyeshadow brush. So I'm going to pack this right on the outer part of my eye, and then go back to that first blending brush and just blend right around the edge of that, just a little bit. I'm going to go in with one of the liquid metallic eyeshadows. This is the shade called Moon, and I'm going to use some of this with a brush. I'm not going to swipe the applicator because a lot of it does come off on this doe foot. So I think working off of a makeup palette is going to be ideal. For my personal preferences, I like to work with my palette. So I'm going to use that shade pretty much all over the lid. And I'm using an e.l.f. eyeshadow brush to apply that liquid metallic shadow in Moon from inner corner to the outer corner, almost all the way. I want to leave a little bit of that visible, so I'm not going to cover that, but I'm going to use this eyeshadow brush and just kind of pat this right onto the lid. And that is a beautiful, beautiful champagne-y pink shade. Love this color. So I'm going to build this up, and I do recommend working one eye at a time because these do set down. What I have already on my palette is completely dry. So I definitely had to go back in and add more to my palette so that I can build this up. But this is stunning. Time for some eyeliner. So I did a swatch of this, and this actually has a bit of a greenish undertone to it, which is quite deceiving. This is that cool shadow stick in Cool Beans. So I'm glad that I ordered the H2O proof Inkwell eyeliner. This said new, I believe, on the website, or maybe I'm confusing it with something else, but it's one of those like Inkwell type of products where it has like a small little brush and you kind of pull it out, and that has the actual ink. So you can do a thin line, a thick line, and I have it in the dark brown shade, which is called Caffeinated, which is me in the mornings with my coffee. So I'm going to use some of this to do a very thin line really close to the root of my lashes. And this applicator is very stiff, so it doesn't have a lot of flexibility, which could be a good thing or a bad thing. It depends on your personal preference. So that line ended up a little bit thicker than I wanted to, and it also was a little bumpy, so I think maybe just going over the liquid shadow. So I'm gonna just assume that that's what it is. It is very intense and it's very rich and dark, which I like. But you do have to have a steady hand because it's very inky and wet versus having a bit more of a controlled application with a liquid liner pen, which is my preferred method. But I thought I'd give it a try because I haven't used a lot of these in a very long time. So I try to do the best that I can with this liner. I don't think I care for this as much. I try to go back to make this a little thicker because this one came out thicker, of course. And it was a little bit difficult to go over the already existing liner line. So this is something that I would say pass. This eye, I will say, was a little bit easier to do. So I think having that first go on this side kind of got my hand warmed up and I was able to do a better job on this side. But still, it's a little bit challenging and difficult. So I just, with having to get ready pretty quickly, I don't think I can see myself using this for my quick everyday makeup looks. Mascara. e.l.f. has a few mascara options. They have their Big Mood, which is one of their more recent additions. And then, of course, the very famous Xtndr Lash, or Lash Xtndr. This was sold out for quite some time, and I got the shade Soft Black because the darkest black was out of stock. Even a couple weeks ago, I could not get my hands on it. So we're going to use this. I have not tried this, and it's a tubing formula, so we'll see how Soft Black looks. So here's one coat with the Lash Xtndr. I'm going to go in and do a second coat to see if I can get this to build before it dries. Okay, so I do like it with the second coat. I think it's better. But I think because it's tubing, you may want to build up your coats rather quickly. And I'm also going to run this on the lower lashes as well. So this is the completed eye look after doing 2 coats of the mascara, and I do like this. I do think it's going to work well for my lashes. It's hard to tell exactly the length and the volume it's giving me because my liner ended up being quite thick today. So I will try this again tomorrow with my normal thin line or maybe skip liner just so I can really see this, but I do like the end result and I feel like that definitely completed the eye look, and so far so good. So moving on to lips, the final part of this video, I wanted to show you some of my favorites from e.l.f. They do have lots of lip products that I truly do enjoy. Let's start with the lip liners. The Cream Glide lip liners, they're $2. They're actually fantastic. They don't last very long because it's a more creamy formula, but for the pigmentation, how easily they go on, the colors, Pinky Swear is my absolute favorite. For $2, you can't beat it. You really can't complain about these, so these are definitely a must. Let's talk about their Satin Lipsticks. I have 2 shades. I love this formula. These feel very high-end. This feels like my luxury lipsticks that I've paid $40, $50 for. These are definitely another must. Lip oils, need I say more? I started off with one shade, the Rose Envy. I went back and I picked up the Jelly Pop one, and I don't know the exact name of this. I think it's just their Jelly Pop color, but it's beautiful. It's kind of like a kind of raspberry fuchsia pink with some shimmer. It's beautiful. And I also picked up the shade Red Delicious because I wanted something kind of like a cherry bitten kind of look. These are, okay, you need some of these. This is probably one of the best lip oil formulas at the drugstore, and I want to say they're around $8 or so. These are absolutely to die for. I love the formula, the colors. This one here, the Jelly Pop one, is stunning. It has a little bit of glow to it. They're all really pretty. I think the problem is going to be which one should you choose. I say get one that has a shimmer and then pick a kind of nudie type shade and an everyday shade. They also have a clear, so you could do that and use it every day with your favorite lip products. So check them out. They're going to be linked for you down below. And their newest addition, the Pout Clout lip pens. I have not tried these. These are plumping lip pens. I picked up one shade, which again, those small little stickers with the names on it, no go e.l.f. Okay, I can't even read that. So this one, I believe, is one of their kind of peachy tones. So I want to try that today because I've used their lip oils in previous videos, but I do have to start with the lip liner. I do it every day and I just can't go without lip liner. So I think I'm going to start with the lip liner in the shade Truth or Bear. I think that's kind of like a nice kind of nudish color that I think will pair nicely with that peach tone. So this is the Cream Glide lip liner. I lined and I filled in entirely my lips with the Truth or Bare. And these could be your one and done lip color. They're creamy, they're pigmented. $2, guys. I can't. So pretty. Now let's go with that plumping pen, and since I haven't used this yet, gotta click it up a couple times. Not too much, but this is supposed to be their version of the Maracuja Juicy Lip Plumps from Tarte, which I do love those. So let's see, how does this compare? So I'm gonna just start, whoa, that's pigmented. That's a lot lighter than I thought, so I'm glad that I did that Truth or Bare lip liner because I think it pairs perfectly with it. And this is the plumping pen over that lip liner. I was not expecting it to be that pigmented. I do feel a bit of a plumping, kind of a cooling, minty kind of feel on the lips. Not painful by any means, so I like that. Another lip product that I really do enjoy from e.l.f. that I didn't show you when I was talking about their lip products is their newer plumping glosses. I had already done a video on this and I reviewed this. This is stunning. I love the formula, the color, the shine, that kind of cooling sensation, that minty feel. It's not painful by any means, and it's a beautiful formula as well. So this is the full face, you guys, of using only e.l.f. products. What do you think? I actually really do enjoy these products and this brand overall. I think they're pretty solid at the drugstore. They have some really great products, very affordable, and I do like that they can give you some options for the higher end alternatives at an affordable price and still give you quality ingredients and formulas that actually perform very well. I have so many more products from e.l.f. I could do this again and use different products because I have so much. I think I own the most from this brand out of the drugstore brands. I have the most e.l.f. And I definitely have my standouts, some products that I really like. I think the only thing that I don't really care for too much as of right now is the under eye area. I feel like I can start to see a little bit of my darkness kind of peeking through after setting and baking, which is kind of odd. Maybe I didn't put enough on that side, so we'll have to try those products out again. But I'm gonna have to kind of give you some feedback in the wear test section of the description box on how this is going to look at the end of the day, because I did mix in the Soft Glam that tends to make me look a little bit more dewy than I prefer. So now that I mix that into the Camo, the CC Camo, I'm gonna just kind of keep an eye on things and we'll see how this goes. But I like the end result. I like that kind of liquid shadow that's kind of metallic and adds that intense look to the lids, the liner, the lashes. Everything looks pretty good and everything blended very, very well. And I'm looking down in my basket and I told you I have so many products that I forgot to use. The All Night Setting Spray. This is the Stay All Night Microfine Setting Mist. Up to 16 hours of wear. Let's give it a go. Okay, 1, that doesn't taste very good. 2, it almost feels like nothing is going on because the mist is extremely fine. So I'm gonna just let this kind of dry. Do one of these numbers, kind of tap it in, and I like how I did not get any sort of big droplets on my face. So yay. I feel like I need to do a look of e.l.f. tomorrow with the rest of the products. I have so much product to use and try and then feature in future videos. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe for more videos like this. If you're not a subscriber, please join my family here on YouTube. If you are a subscriber, thank you so much for subscribing, for watching, for being here, for being you. You mean so much to me. And the description box will have some additional information on the wear test, the products, the links, everything is down there below. So expand that. And you can be friends with me on Instagram. I'd love to see you there. It's here on the screen. Take care, you guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.